Alright, today we're going to be making the Chicago favorite deep dish pizza. So to get started, take 2 1/4 teaspoons instant yeast and combine to 8 1/4 ounces room temp water. Then in a separate bowl, combine 12 1/2 ounces all-purpose flour with 1 teaspoon sugar, 1 1/2 teaspoons kosher salt, 2 1/2 ounces of yellow cornmeal, and then 1/8 of a teaspoon of cream of tartar and give a stir. Then to a stand mixer or a separate bowl if you're going to knead by hand, combine our yeast mixture with our dry ingredients and then a 1/3 cup plus 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil, and you're going to knead this for about 10 minutes. Now I do want to give credit as the dough recipe did come from Basic with Babish, but I've made it for years. And then afterwards we're going to roll out for 1 to 2 minutes, then we're going to grease a large metal bowl with some olive oil and let rise for an hour to an hour and a half. So for our pizza sauce, we're going to start by dicing 1/2 of a white onion. Then we're going to set that aside and take 2 garlic cloves, and you're going to want a fine mince on this. And then for other toppings, I generally like to put some green onion in there, so I'm using about half of this and I want a fine dice. Also going to want to grate out a 1/2 cup of parmesan cheese, which is going to go on the pizza before we cook it. Now in a separate bowl, add a 28-ounce can of tomatoes, and I like a chunkier sauce, so I'm going to break apart by hand, but you can also strain. Then we're going to add a couple shakes of dried oregano, basil, some red pepper flake depending on your spiciness, and then that white onion we talked about earlier. Now stir and season to taste with salt and pepper, and it's important to note that we're not going to be cooking this sauce prior to putting it on the pizza. The pizza is going to cook long enough that the sauce is going to cook and thicken. After your dough is risen, we're going to grease a 12-inch cast iron skillet, and then we're going to add in the dough and push towards the edges. Expect some resistance, but just do the best you can. Then we're going to cover in plastic wrap, and we're going to let this sit for about an hour. After resting, you're going to notice it's much easier to push the dough to the edges. Just make sure you have a high wall, and then we're going to add 1/2 pound each of provolone and low moisture mozzarella. Now you can add all of your toppings, so I'm doing pepperoni and then that green onion from earlier. Just remember with a deep dish pizza that the toppings go underneath the sauce. Then it's time to add our sauce. Now if you're making a 12-inch deep dish pizza, it's going to use all the sauce that we made. If you're making anything smaller, just make sure that it's evenly layered and that you can't see any of the toppings below. Final steps are to take that fresh grated parmesan and layer over top, and then you're going to take some olive oil, spread it all over the pizza, including the edges, which are going to give us that golden color. Then this is going to go in a 425-degree oven for about 30 minutes or until the crust looks done. Now comes the fun part of trying to remove the pizza from the cast iron. It's really heavy, so I'd get a long metal spatula and just try to get underneath it, but as you can see, we have that beautiful golden crust. And when we cut into it, the dough is fully cooked and we get a little bit of that cheese pull. If you guys liked the video, please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.